Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Authenticate with Alicia Partee. And today I have the pleasure of having Jamal Vallair as my guest. And his background you can read about in the post, and you're going to hear more about it in the conversation. But we're going to jump right into it with Jamal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so good to see you, and I love your story, and I can't wait until my audience hears it. So, let's start with our first question, and just about your experience with the U.S. Navy and how it shaped your experience around leadership development and personal transformation.
Definitely. So I have been in the military, came in at 18. I am 37 now, so I'm close to, I retired at 38. So 19, going on my 19th year in the military.
Yeah.
And so I've had some amazing opportunities.
Hmm.
Um, People join the military for different reasons, but as a little boy, my mom said, you're going to travel and see the world. And so
Yeah.
for me, I was in ROTC in high school, was company commander. I was a person in denial. I was like, I'm not going to join the military. I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
Uh, but I also knew that school and college wasn't necessarily the thing that I really wanted to do. And
Hmm.
so my grandmother, who was retired from the NSA for after 30 years, she put all of her kids through college. And so we knew
Hmm.
at 18 there was a conversation that we had to have with grandma, who was the matriarch of our family. And she said,
Hmm.
at 18, you need to tell me if you're going to the military, if you're going to have a trade school, you're going to community college, or if you're going to college. Those
Hmm.
are your options. There was
Yeah.
no idea, I'm just going to stay at home and just figure out what you want to do. There
Yeah.
was an expectation that all of her grandchildren and her children knew because of that was the standard. And so for me, it was a decision of, okay, I'm already familiar with it. I was a company commander for my high school. I was like, why not? And so I started that particular journey 2004, August. Wow.
Wow.
How quickly time flies by.
Yes,
Um,
it does.
Opportunity to travel to about 9 different countries and live abroad for about 2 years.
Wow, that is so amazing. And of course, this is all about encouraging you guys to get your passport, study, travel, live abroad. You said something very key, ROTC. I did ROTC too. I loved ROTC actually. And that is a way to kind of get acclimated. Tell, just in case someone may not have heard of it, give us what is ROTC?
Junior ROTC is usually done by a retired, enlisted, and an officer who kind of help groom you to understand what it means to be in the military, some of the standards, some of the disciplines, things of that nature. It is also what when I was in, it was an opportunity where people said, hey, these are our bad kids or our kids who need more structure and more guidance.
Yes.
And they would throw them in there thinking that that was going to be the fix for not being a full-fledged or full-time parent at home, right? I believe you should be the best, most influence should come from home, but
Yeah.
sometimes they need support. And
Yeah.
so there was a mix of kids who were just interested and curious, and there were some that were sent because they felt that they lacked discipline or they were somewhat of a problem child. And so they felt, well, JROTC will potentially fix them or give them some tools that they may need for the life skills. But overall, it is an opportunity to help you get acclimated, but also understand the demand and responsibility.
Hmm.
When you're in high school, you're not responsible for anybody. You're just responsible for coming to school, making sure you do your homework. But when you're in JRTC, you get a chance to interact with others, actually visit different bases, see what that life is like. Also interact with other people in competition. So you do competitions about marching, connecting. So there's many different opportunities that you have there that you kind of get you acclimated without you having to do a contract and swear in.
Hmm.
Um, and it teaches you a different level sense of responsibility. You wear a uniform. You understand what the uniform means. You have a different level of character. When they see you in a uniform, even in the high school, you're treated a little bit differently.
Hmm.
There is a certain level because these uniforms are kind of similar to community respect, right?
Hmm.
If you see a firefighter, if you see a police officer,
Hmm.
there's a uniform that automatically creates some level of trust. And
Yeah.
so when you're in JROTC, it gives you an opportunity to get a flashpoint of potentially what the military lifestyle would potentially be like, just
Hmm.
to be able to also understand that there's some skills that even if you never joined the military, that you
Yes.
adopt over a period of time because that is the standard.
I love that. My favorite part of ROTC, honestly, was the drill team. And I learned how to shoot a rifle and take it apart and put it back together in ROTC in high school. So there,
Mhm.
it was fun too, So I learned a lot. It was a lot of fun for me. Those were my highlights in ROTC. But what inspired you to become a transformational speaker and a certified brain performance coach? And just in case people don't know what that even means, give us an understanding of what it is and tell us how did you come into this field?
So it's twofold. So for me, I knew I was funny and entertaining, but I never really considered myself smart.
Mm.
And so when you're talented and you're gifted, you find ways to overcompensate or look over what you think other people can see.
Mhm.
So for me, it was I was like, well, I can be funny, entertaining, and then maybe people won't realize that I'm not, because I measured my intelligence based on degrees. And since I
Mhm.
joined the military, they treat you different if you have a degree versus if you don't.
Yes.
And so my mindset around intelligence was, well, I don't have degrees, so that it doesn't necessarily mean I have the same level of aptitude or intelligence as other people.
Mhm.
And there was a wonderful speaker by the name of Jim Quick, and he talks about it's not if you're smart, it's how you're smart. And so it
Mhm.
was a major shift for me because I was measuring my intelligence based on someone else's standard.
Mhm.
Einstein says that if you measure a fish by its ability to climb a tree, the fish will think it's stupid. Uh,
Yes.
so I realized I was like, okay, so where do I fit? Where's my level of genius? I was
Yes.
always curious and interested on how the brain, how the mind works, but I was like, I don't want to spend 10 years in college.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't want to. That's not my thing. And so I ran into a neuroscientist. I call her my
Mhm.
professor by the
Mhm.
name of Shantae Taylor, and she's a 20-year neuroscientist, and she talked
Mhm.
about neuroscience. And
Mhm.
what was the beauty of me was it became my new obsession. I was
Mhm.
like, this is why we do what we do. And what I was able to learn is once you peel away all the labels that you have adopted over a period of time that you
Mhm.
weren't born with, that
Yeah.
you adopted from your friends, your family, your parents, your society, your culture, your religion, all of these different things that give you some level of limitations on who you are or dictate who you are.
Mhm.
What I really enjoyed was being able to say, once I pull those labels off, even the labels I put on myself,
Yeah.
right?
Who? Yeah.
Those limiting stories that I was telling
Yes.
myself, the script that I was kept on writing. I realized that when you treat the brain a certain way, uh,
Mhm.
supercomputer, and whatever you're looking for, it will find. If you're looking for the worst in a situation, you'll find it. If you're looking
Yes.
for the best in an opportunity, you will always find it. And so, how
Yes.
we prime our brains get
Mhm.
shapes our perception. Our perception becomes our reality. And so
Mhm.
this obsession became just something, if you see something and you're like, ah, that's cute, but I'm not really interested. But this became a thing that's like, I think I can take this further. And the
Mhm.
more I started to learn about me, the more I started to embrace my own genius.
Mhm.
Who could I become if I believed that I was a genius versus
Yes.
someone who was just entertaining and funny? And
Ah,
so my passion is now helping people find their own genius and
yes.
maximize their own genius because as unique as your fingerprints are, you can have twins and triplets. You are the only one with that. So that
That's
means that God turned around and said, I'm going to put a certain level of genius perspective inside of you that no one
mhm.
in the world has. And if
Mhm.
you embrace it, you'll be able to, your gift will make room for you when you honor your gift.
Love it.
Honoring your gift means self-mastery. And so if you
Absolutely.
master what's been put in your hands, there's nothing that you can't do.
Absolutely. And let's talk about this a little bit more because one of the things we know when we think about the brain, and we've both been on Lisa Nichols' campus for a while, right? And I'm a certified transformational trainer. You're on the campus as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And we know that limiting beliefs and the things that like you said, that just it's just our life as we grow up and all this stuff that we take in. What if you had to leave something, or if you can share something, just a small maybe intervention or something that someone can do today to say, hey, I do want to change the way I think, but I have all these things coming. I'll give you an example. I had this one kid that said, we were trying to get him to not sell drugs, just to be honest. I used to work in Los Angeles with at a young adult transitional home, and we were really trying to help these kids. And he said to me, "But my mother was this, and my dad was this, and I don't know how to be anything else." And he was right. So, what is the first step for a person to start their own transformation and walk in their genius?
So the first thing that I would do is first honor him for his transparency.
Hmm.
Honor and being able to identify that you don't have to be further along. You need to be where you are right now. And so
Yes.
honoring where he is and creating that level of psychological safety and say, if you
Yes.
didn't have to be this, who would you want to be?
Mm, yes.
Because hope gives us opportunity to be able to have our dream on credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if this is what you're doing to survive, because there's three levels of mindsets there's six altogether, but the three that are most common is the fixed, the survival,
Mhm.
and the limited mindset. Right. So if you're operating those three, a scarcity mindset, I'm sorry. So when you're operating from scarcity, if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Mhm.
you don't even have the ability to
Mhm.
access the parts of your brain, which is called the CEO, the prefrontal cortex of your brain. That's
Mhm.
where you get all your genius. That's where you're forward thinking. That's where you're able to figure out complex situations. When
Mhm.
you're in stress, overwhelmed, scarcity, survival, or fixed mindset, you can't even access that part.
Mhm.
So when you have psychological safety, one. Number two, when you're able to just be able to operate from a place of creation, what do you
Mhm.
want to create? Hope. What are you hoping for? You're also quieting that amygdala that's
Mhm.
also saying, we're in fight or flight. And it
Mhm.
gives you the opportunity to say, if I did not have to worry about scarcity and survival,
Mhm.
this would be what I would create for myself. And I'm pretty sure there's a dream that he has that's bigger than what he's currently doing. He just
Mhm.
doesn't know how to get there.
How to
And
tap into it.
so when
Mhm.
you have a coach, you're able to say, let's create, right?
Mhm.
Smallest
Mhm.
step that you can make towards that. If it's
Mhm.
automatically identifying how much money do you make every month in order to be able to let this go?
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um, what type of skills did you already have that's probably going to point you into that direction? So he may say music. He may say I've always wanted to be in real estate, because if you can do also the reframing of the of how we what stories we tell ourselves. If
Yes.
you sell drugs, you can sell real estate, right?
Well, yes.
You have a skill set on being able to manage money, to be able to understand ounces and doses and things of that nature. You're able to understand networking. There's other skills, even though it's a negative connotation behind selling that particular thing, you have to understand that there are people who do it legally, who they just have degrees.
Yes. Yes.
Understanding that you already have a genius levels of skill sets. How can I transfer them over so I don't have to look over the shoulder and over my shoulder about how much I'm bringing in, but also how do I create a legacy for myself? What do you want in the next 10 to 15, 20 years? And so being able to have those powerful conversations, like what is your dream before life hits you?
Yes.
What is the dream that you wanted to have, but then society, stress, overwhelm, or all these
Mhm.
different things, that unfair cards that you've been dealt in this life?
Mhm.
Where are those particular what happened before that story was interrupted? What did you want to be? And let's
Yes.
build from there. And
Yes.
the more that he says, the more that he has hope and belief that it's possible, the
Mhm.
more that he's able to say, wow, this is a reality. It may
Yes.
not be my current reality, but it's a possibility. And if you
Absolutely.
have that possibility, you can build. And what you need next is a support system to say that your dream is.
Yes. Yes.
I am where I am. It wasn't because 10,000 people said my dream was real. It was
Well,
because of one person that says, I don't care what label you have. I don't care what your story is. I
yeah.
believe in the highest version of what's possible for you. And I
Yeah.
want it for you if you're willing to go after it.
I love that. And I hope the people that are listening, the hope that comes with you just being that you might be that voice. I could have been that voice. I hope I was that voice for that young man. That was many years ago. And many of us that are watching can be the voice in someone's life. And it just reminds me that never give up. Never just take things for face value. And I love, there's always a diamond in the rough, right? If I could say it that way. I don't know. No, let me stick with that. There is always a diamond in a rough. Sometimes we see the roughness of people and we judge and we tell ourselves these things that we've probably heard in society. And I just think what you're saying, and just there's something in everybody. There's a uniqueness about everybody, and there's a genius inside of everybody. So I love that. What are some the key elements of mindset, neuroscience, performance, and leadership development that you specialize in? So I guess, yeah, tell us a little bit more about you. Actually, I think we got some of it, but maybe you can, if someone was going to work with you, uh, tell me about your ideal client.
So I work with executives, entrepreneurs, and millennial high achievers.
Hmm.
And so these are specifically executives because you're already a leader. You're already making executive decisions. And where do you have a safe space not to be okay?
Yes.
Not to be able to say, I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Sometimes we allow our titles to be, we see people who are celebrities and we just think they have it all together,
Yeah.
right? They
Yeah.
have the money, they have the fame, they have but they are still a part of their personal development journey that they're still having to grow through. And so I love working with leaders
Hmm.
because they don't always get that same level of support. When
Hmm.
they make a poor decision, everybody knows about it, right?
Yes.
So being able to help them around what does it mean to be more resilient?
Hmm.
What is their mindset? What is self mastery at that level? Since you're already the CEO, you're a C-suite executive. If you're already, how do you tap into your next level of genius? How do you tap into that next level of innovation? How do you create that edge? How do you build resilient teams? on
Mhm.
that particular
Mhm.
level. So for executives, I love to help them build for what's next while everybody's focusing on what's now.
I love
For
it.
for
Mhm.
my high achieving entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
when you talk to your other friends who aren't entrepreneurs, it is different, right?
Mhm.
Because they have the safety and security of a 9 to 5. Nothing wrong with that. But
Yes.
entrepreneurs need different levels of support,
Yes.
accountability. They need help with their mindset. Okay, my business is at 6 figures. What is it? What is it going to take me to get to 7 figures and 8 figures? Right?
Mhm.
How do I work through my self sabotage, my own limiting beliefs, but also how do I want to show up in the world as an entrepreneur? Because you are your brand, right? So how
Yes.
do I
Yes.
build on that particular thing? How do I make sure that I not necessarily have work life balance, but
Mhm.
work life harmony, right?
Yeah.
How can I make sure I have harmonious? Because if it's balance, one scale goes up and then the other scales, and you're constantly chasing, right? You're constantly chasing some level of normacy or
Yes.
homeostasis. So making sure that you have an ability to make sure that I have support, I have accountability, but I also have someone who's going to encourage me and push me to my next level in my
Mhm.
business, but also for my teams, and
Mhm.
then millennials, right?
Mhm.
I'll be 38 next year, and
Mhm.
I think that when it comes to leadership, one of the biggest challenges is the way that Generation X and Generation
Mhm.
Y and Z connect, communicate, and
Mhm.
empower.
Yeah.
And so a lot of stereotypes around the millennials and the zillennials. They're not as they have certain skill sets that Gen
Mhm.
X is able to master, and vice versa. So some of
Mhm.
the stereotypes that come along with that they're lazy, but also millennials have
Mhm.
created more millionaires than any other generation, right?
Wow.
Millennials are the most technologically advanced group of people in the history of our civilization. Um,
Mhm.
but Gen X also needs support with being able to work with the iPhone, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
There
absolutely.
are different levels of resiliency and hard work that Gen X has, that because of how tough sometimes life was, they're
Mhm.
able to be more resilient in certain areas where millennials and zillennials, where all the information is right there in front of you, right?
Yes.
Like even for example, some of the kids like, I don't need to get a license. For us, it was a rite of passage. But for
Yeah.
them, I'll just get on the Uber or my parents will take me. It's just
Exactly.
so what I do is I bring in that emotional intelligence,
Good.
uh,
Yeah.
we understand how Gen X is able to operate and execute, but how
Yeah.
do we get people who are more having different levels of aptitude and different levels of community involvement and want a
Yes.
deeper sense of purpose and are
Mhm.
not family,
Mhm.
right? They're not a family starting all over. And where
Mhm.
Generation X, we've been taught about scarcity and survival, right?
Mhm.
You have a good job, you do 30 years and you retire.
Yep.
The millennials and zillennials like, I'll start this job over 4 or 5 times.
Yep.
I'm willing to be able to fail forward in a different way. And so
Absolutely.
working with those particular young leaders on,
Mhm.
hey, these are some skill sets that you really, really need to be able to outperform your peers, but also
Mhm.
a life of deeper sense of purpose, have a
Mhm.
deeper sense of identity and authenticity. Uh,
Mhm.
millennials,
Mhm.
I become the gap in between. I become the coach that helps both sides.
It's a bridge.
How
Mhm.
was how I was raised, but also what I've learned with over 19 years of military experience, where you were exposed to different age groups, different races, different ethnicities, different ways of leading, different ways of communicating, different
Mhm.
ways of connecting.
Yeah.
One of my principles when it comes to leadership is most people don't feel seen, heard.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you can do those three things and leave people with their dignity intact when you finish talking with them, you've done what
Absolutely.
they've been not able to give them for years.
Absolutely. So you named three different sects. I want to sex sectors. I'll say I want to start with the leaders or the executives because I work with executives too. And one of the things I love that you're having them take a look forward or what is next. I love that because a lot of times as executives, I have found they get caught up in the performance of the organization. How they feel about their self is based on their performance. And a lot and I have found that one separating them
Mhm.
from measuring their self based on their performance, and then two, giving them a balance in life where yes, you're the CEO of this company, and yes, that's your role, but you have another role that you play, and how do you find your happiness in that? So I want to just break it because that was just in case. Tell
Mhm.
me, have you found a little bit of that, or what else? What is some of the things that you're leading them to and the what next?
Mhm. So one of the things that I often deal with a lot of executives is,
Mhm.
how do I manage burnout?
Mhm.
How do
Mhm.
I manage? How do
Mhm.
I manage? Because their job is performance, right? If
Mhm.
they have stock, they have stakeholders, they have other people who are only measuring the outcome of numbers and
Yes.
and money and income.
Right.
So there is a different level of pressure that the
Yeah.
CEO or the executive has to be able to answer for, that your middle level of managers and your low level managers and your entry people just are not responsible.
Right.
So one thing I helped them a lot was with stress management, right? What unrealistic expectations are you chasing,
Yeah.
right? When it comes to your own personal values, where are you compromising those?
Yeah.
Because that a lot of we often have the answers for ourselves, but we often don't have a safe space to be able to talk about it.
Yes.
Right? We don't that level of support is not always there because it can be
Yes.
weaponized against you, right?
Mhm.
Now the thing that you're talking about out of vulnerability,
Yeah.
and I do teach about what it means to be transparent and vulnerable in safe spaces, creating that safe space for your board to be able to say, these are where our numbers are really low, but we don't want to fear, we have a fear of disappointing you or
Mhm.
being fired, right? So being able to talk about that emotional intelligence and leadership, that self-regulations, because we are emotional beings. So if we
Mhm.
run our businesses and we're not able to manage our emotions, we will
Mhm.
imploding
Mhm.
our businesses, or they'll suffer because there's no what am I chasing? What am I chasing? Am I chasing? Am I enough? Am I
Yes.
am I chasing someone else's standard of success?
Yeah.
Where am I internally
Yeah.
being that support to be able to say, what's my favorite way to self-sabotage my own success?
Mhm. Mhm.
It
Yeah.
becomes an effect. So after we do some assessments and identify, okay, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses? It's pretty much a SWOT analysis, but
Yeah.
also what you want to build towards, whether
Yeah.
it be personally or whether
Yeah.
it be leadership wise, the way you communicate,
Yes.
the way you connect. Finding out where's the chink in your armor. And I always use this metaphor. I says, no matter if you're a Bentley, if you're a Tesla, if you're a Honda Civic, or you're a Prius, no matter how expensive the vehicle may be, you always have a blind spot. And so
Always.
coaching gives you an opportunity to be able to expose that blind spot so it
Yes.
becomes no longer becomes a liability to your dream.
That is key. And I the way I say it too is you can't see the forest for the trees. We all need a therapist needs a therapist, a coach needs a coach because when I'm the one down trying to navigate this, I have all this foliage in front of me. And I
Mm.
need that person that can hover over and go left, go right, you're doing good, go straight, and kind of get me through that. And so I love that. And when I hear you talked about also the entrepreneurs, I'm going to group these two together and millennials. And the reason I say that is because what I found so beautiful is when you connect Gen X with millennials and they co-create something in an entrepreneurial space, it's magic.
Yes.
It's magic. And I think there's so much opportunity. So actually what I would say to you guys that are listening, look to partner with someone from a different generation or because that co-creation process just develops something very beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah.
You made a mention too about the diamond, um,
Mhm.
and I think there's also a beauty of that. There's many dimensions of the diamond depending on how much light is put through it.
Ooh, yes, say it.
Light too has ability to be able to illuminate what you think is not valuable because diamonds are found in the dirt.
Yes. Woo.
Diamonds are found in dark places and places where we don't normally see value, where we
Yes.
are stepped on. They're underappreciated. They're undervalued. But when
Yes.
someone's taking the time to clean up, be able
Yeah.
to understand it's even the dimensions of how it's been created. When you
Yes.
see a diamond in its raw form and its perfected form, there's a difference between cubic zirconiums and real diamonds. I
Well,
mean, you can build yourself with things that are superficial, inefficient, and unauthentic, and it can look real shiny to the untrained eye,
ooh,
but
yes.
you're not really understanding authenticity. And then
Yeah.
there's an actual diamond where it can be appraised and says, if I sharpen it, if I cut it at different angles, if I
Mhm.
make sure that the light is constantly able to shine on it from a very different way, you're able to see that there is beauty in the dimensions of who you are. And one of the challenges we have in our society is that
Mhm.
we see ourselves from only one dimension.
Absolutely. That's some nuggets right there. Go ahead.
We
Uh-huh.
see ourselves just from our bank account, from
Oh,
our
yeah.
job.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
young people, do not fall into the trap of
Yeah.
allowing your occupation to be your identity.
It's not
Because
the
when you talk to
performance.
people, we say, "Tell me
Mhm.
about yourself." The first thing that we do is tell them what we do for a living.
That's right.
I think that is a trap that we have been taught. There was a quote that says, "Sometimes we ask people what they do for a living to ask to measure how much respect we want to give them.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
I would challenge people to say, if I took away your job, who would
Mm,
you say that you are?
yes.
If it came to how you want to impact the world, who would that person be?
Yes.
Because many times we are hiding our genius, our gifts, our talents, and our dreams behind our occupation.
Absolutely. All these masks
Hey,
and
you may want to impact the world. And say, man, I would love to be able to feed people around the world. But you find safety and security in a 9 to 5 job that you don't like.
well,
Meanwhile, the dream that you've always wanted to have, because nobody told you to go after your dream. You
yeah.
were, and I think I, it's a double-edged sword. I know
Mhm.
Gen X wanted security and safety for their kids at
Yeah.
the cost of, well, if
Mm,
you, for example, you want to do liberal arts, well, how are you gonna make a living, baby? And
mhm.
so these things of protection, I want the best for you, could also snuff out the little light that we had about our dreams being real.
Absolutely.
I played the violin for like 4 years.
Mhm.
I was pretty good at it. I could play by ear. It would drive my instructors crazy because you're like, you just played it, but you didn't look at any of the notes.
Mhm. Yeah.
But the idea of it being a career was far fetched for me, simply because how are you gonna make a living? Uh,
That
and so
limiting.
and this kind
Mhm.
of leads me into this particular part of my where I am, why I got to where I am when it comes to be a transformational speaker. Um, so for 5 years, I had a friend of mine say, Jamal, you
Mhm.
should be a speaker. And I was like, nah. I was like, there's nothing special about me. Surely God is someone else that has more gifts, more talents,
Mhm.
all these other things. I'm not built to be a speaker.
Mhm.
First, who's gonna listen to me?
Mhm.
And why would God allow me to move over 21 times before I was 18?
Mhm.
Almost be homeless 3 times.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hotels, hotels. Why would he let me do all that? I don't know if you've ever experienced someone stepping over you to walk into their kitchen.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever experienced knowing that there was a pimp living next door, or
Mhm.
someone who was dealing drugs next door. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but when you've never really had a place to call home, just to
Mhm.
stay for now, and
Yeah.
constantly under the threat of, are we going to be homeless?
Mhm.
Like, nah, God surely could use somebody else.
Mhm.
For 5 years, she was relentless. We're good friends even to this day. She said,
Mhm.
I really, really think you should be a speaker. And I was
Mhm.
like, what's so special?
Yeah.
Scarcity came in, my survival, my fixed mindset, they were all operating on all cylinders. Because my heart and my head were always having to fight. My heart saying, let's do this. My mind says, we don't have all the facts. We don't have all the evidence.
Mhm.
After the 5th year, I finally said, you know what? Fine.
Yeah.
I was just gonna get her off my back. I said, sure, I'll be a speaker.
Mhm.
Says, awesome. I've been telling my family about you for 5 years. And I said, your family? What's so special about your family?
Mhm.
She says, my grandfather is Les Brown.
Mhm.
About you for 5 years that you should be a
Mhm.
speaker. I was not going to tell you until you finally said yes. So
Mhm.
we can have these dreams and these aspirations, and we don't
Mhm.
have all the evidence of how it's going to happen.
No,
And so we allow. I secretly wanted to say yes. I just didn't know how.
didn't
And
know.
unbelievable, when the why is big enough, the how will find a way.
Exactly.
One of the greatest speakers. He's one of the top 5 speakers in
Oh,
the
yeah.
world, who was
Absolutely.
sitting there waiting on me to
Yeah.
finally say yes to my dream, when I let go of my fear. And so
Wow.
I got a phone call on my birthday, from Mr. Les Brown. He says, "Hey, I heard you finally said yes to the opportunity." He says,
Wow.
"I want you to come down to Orlando, and I want you to be I want to be your first teacher." And
Wow.
that started my journey of learning how to be a speaker.
Mhm.
Sharing them. Many people have a story, but not everybody has a message.
Right. Yes, yes.
My
Love
principle is understanding that your gift will make room for you when you honor
yeah.
your gift and when you honor your genius. Um,
Yes.
and I'm more as of last year, I've more so started to embrace genius,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
because it's not a conversation that I had in my internal dialogue.
Mhm.
Always
Mhm.
gravitating to, because when you're gifted and you're talented, the world doesn't necessarily know about your flaws.
That's
There,
right.
there's things that you do naturally when you
That's
wake
right.
up, that people will clap for, that other people have to go to school for, that other people
Yes.
have to do trades for, that you just naturally can get up and do. And so
Yes.
many times for young people, do not die at being good when greatness is available for you.
Yes.
You're good at something, but you've never really challenged and mastered your gift to be able to say, what does greatness in this particular area look like?
Yes. Invest in it. Yes.
Until you see someone else operating in their greatness, it will either inspire you or make you envious.
Yes. You had mentioned something about authenticity too. And I think that's so key in everything that you're saying. And it brings me to the name of my company, Authenticate, right? And I just, because no, I don't want to say what I think. I want, when you hear that word, authenticate,
Mhm.
what does it resonate with you? What resonates with you?
So I think authenticity is sometimes it's sometimes never really given its full balance of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
How you feel in the moment may not be all fully authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you're able to be authentic, gives you opportunity to be able to say, "This is a genuine belief system that I have
Mm-hmm.
to stand on."
Yes.
And then when you, what was the second part of the you said authenticate is
Integrate, authenticate.
how
Mm-hmm.
do I how do I operate from a genuine place and integrate this into my everyday life?
Love
Right?
that.
How am I creating? How am I being true to who I am, not who society
Yes.
requires me to be? How am
Yeah.
I? How am I carrying all the expectations of my parents, my
Yes.
grandparents? Am I carrying everybody else's view of who I should be, or am I really being authentic to my calling, to my
Yeah.
purpose, and to my what my name is? Because your name has power,
Yeah.
right? All you have is your name.
Yeah.
God decided to put you into this earth at this particular time. He called you by name and said, "By
Yes.
this name, I won't call you anything else." And I
Yeah.
put everything I needed you for to be able to accomplish in the earth based on your name. So being
Yeah.
authentic to be able to say, what was I put on this earth to do? Who was I
Mhm.
supposed to serve? And how
Mhm.
do I do this consistently on a daily basis so man can make sure impact the world?
How has you have you because you've traveled quite a bit. I think you said how many countries that
About
you've
9 countries so far.
about 9 countries. How has culture kind of enhanced your worldview and how you actually function, as a transformational, not just speaker, but a performance coach and things like that? How has that impacted you?
What I love about traveling the world is I know that nobody has a story like me.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
experiences,
Mhm.
the way I see the world as an African American man,
Mhm.
allows me to break free from a lot of stereotypes of what America says that a black man is.
Mhm.
I realize that I'm embraced by so many other cultures for my
Yes.
uniqueness, for my creativity, from popular things that they see on TV that I'm the closest representation. I was in France and I
Mhm.
was at ATM. She was an older elderly lady, and this was during the time of we were at odds with France because they wouldn't join in the war.
Mhm.
And so we pull up, in an aircraft carrier with 5,000 Americans. And Americans are known to be, someone arrogant. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
how dare you go come to another country and not speak English, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but I was sitting at an ATM. I was in line in an ATM, and me and my friends were talking about different things. And there was this elderly woman. She's probably in her late 70s, white hair, but about 5'1", and she
Mhm.
was to our conversation. She said, "Excuse me." Um, she says, "Please don't take this offense, but you're far more intelligent than I ever expected."
Wow. Mm. Mhm.
She says, "You're the first American I've ever met. And then on top of that, you're the first African American I've ever met."
Mhm. Mhm.
And so some people could have taken it as a slight, but I also knew it took courage to be able to say,
Yes.
experience you. Uh,
Yes.
and sometimes our who we are is kind of limited to BET or
Yeah.
something that they
Yeah.
see on TV, and so there's an unconscious ignorance. Um,
Yes.
I think ignorance as an assault on your intelligence is you don't
Yeah.
know what you don't know
You don't
until you
know.
fall.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
actually sat and talked with her about a good 10, 15 minutes, and she's like, "This was really insightful."
Wow. I
That
love
that I was able to break a paradigm of we put people in a box and we say this is who they are, and we know
Yes.
based on the stereotype versus get to know them as a person.
Absolutely.
So how this has helped me is being able to understand that my impact is not just for my zip code; it's for the world.
It's for the
Uh,
world.
so however, wherever else I need to step in, if I step into a room full of millionaires, billionaires, or people who are homeless, I have a story to tell
Yeah.
about my life experiences that no one else can tell.
That no one else.
That gives you that authentic originality, but it
Yeah.
also gives you that sense of purpose and value.
Yes.
You're able to be able to add to the conversation, just
Mhm.
be being just glad that you're in the room.
I love that. And, how can a listener get involved with your mission of helping individuals reach their highest potential through transformational mindset shifts?
Absolutely. So if you're a company and you would like to bring me in as a speaker, I do a lot of mindset coaching, specifically around brain pre-performance, but also on how to deal with stress and overwhelm, dealing with burnout, but also how to build a culture of emotional intelligent leaders that are
Mm,
resilient and building resilient teams. So if you'd love to have me come in as a speaker, do some workshops, or if you're an executive or a high achieving entrepreneur and you'd like to work with me one on one, and say, hey, I have all this figured out, but there's some areas over here that I would love to get some support with.
mhm.
You can reach me at my website at jamalvallair.com, or you can send me an email. My name is Coach Jamal Vallair on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, but my website is jamalvallair.com. And you can find me there. Just send me a message that, hey, I would love to have a conversation, and then see what your vision is, or if you have a vision for your company, or if you have some young leaders who
Mhm.
need who you think I would be a great match for with inspiration, motivation, transformation, and education. I would love to make sure that I would be able to provide some support with whatever your vision is and taking it to the next level.
I love that. And we will make sure all of your information is in the comments. And I want you to leave because this is going to air during Black excuse me, Black History Month. And again, I told you the goal is this special edition is to really get Black and Brown communities. The statistics show that about 12 or 15% get passports before they're 20 years old. And that's not enough. And I really want to one break down the myths of what it's like to go abroad, to encourage people to get a passport, travel, study, and or live abroad. And I'd love for you just to leave something with them to encourage not just the kids and young people, but the parents, right? Because a lot of times I remember someone who was successful now after traveling, but she said she was going to South Africa and her mom was like, "Oh no, you can't go there. They're going to eat you." So say something to these communities that's true because you experienced it that will help them um, deal with some of their limiting beliefs or at least start challenging their limiting
So
beliefs.
I was like, where do I wear for this interview? And for some reason, life said, let's do this.
Wow, I love that. Made of
Made
risk.
of risk.
Yes.
So I know your immediate brain would be like, well, I don't know anybody over there. What's going to happen for me?
Yeah.
There was a quote that says that a man who's read 30 books has experienced 30 different lives versus a man who can't read.
Yes.
And so that passport gives you a passport forward to be able to say, there's a world out here who's waiting on me. Why not
Yes.
experience it? So I
Mm,
would challenge you, write down the 5 places that you want to visit in the world.
yeah.
Write what you would want to learn. For me, I enjoy history. So I put Europe on there. I put different places in Europe, whether it be Italy, whether it be France, whether it be whatever the case may be, because
Mhm.
it's a connection for me.
Yes.
Japan was on my list, and I've been living there for 2 years. What
Mhm.
is what are the benefits of traveling the world? It allows you to expand your horizon. You see over my right shoulder, that's the Mount Fuji.
Mhm.
I'm going to
Mhm.
the top of that.
Wow, amazing. Yeah.
I will never do it again,
Yeah.
but there are experiences that only you can have the way that you do it. And what you're doing is once the brain has been expanded to a certain point, it can no longer shrink to back what it
Mm,
was.
mm-mm.
And what happens is, if you're not careful, you become addicted to traveling the world. You
Well,
addicted to experiencing other cultures. You become
yes.
addicted to being able to understand that there's so much more to the world than the zip code that I've been locked down into. Um,
Yes.
how you got here may not be ideal. Your lifestyle may not be where you want it to be. But I would challenge you: as much money as you spent on Uber Eats, on
Well,
food, on Starbucks,
yes.
you can afford a passport. You can
Yes.
afford to be able to experience life in a
Yes.
different country, in a different area. And I guarantee you, your children's children will be blessed because of it, because the
Yes.
story will be different. But also their expectations on what life can give them and present to them will be different. My
Yes.
daughter already will understand different things about different cultures simply because I've been. When you see something on TV, you don't have to say, well, that would be nice to see the world through someone else's camera lens. Be like, oh no, I've been on that street.
Mhm.
I've
Mhm.
met people who were over there. And I think you are doing yourself a disservice if you limit yourself to the state that you're from.
Yeah.
There is a world that God has created as a universe for you to be able to explore and experience. And I don't want you to limit it just to going to Miami or going to Texas or going to California. I want you to challenge yourself to be able to say, if I could go anywhere in the world, what experience do I want to have? And
Yes.
start writing it down. When you write it down, your brain looks at it different because you have from 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. How are
Mm.
you going to differentiate which one's more valuable than the next?
Mhm.
Writing is a technology, is a
Mm.
brain technology. It's taking that one thought out of the 80,000 and says, this one's important. And what your
Yes.
brain will start to do is it'll start to find evidence of having to make that. Once you say, I want to go to Italy, watch your brain. It's kind of like when you say, I want to buy a red car. And all of a sudden, you start seeing red cars all over the
Yep.
place, right?
Always.
Your brain will start looking subconsciously for information on how to get to Italy, right?
Yep.
You'll start seeing ads that you normally you wouldn't ignore, right?
Ex-
And whatever the brain is looking for, the brain is always looking for evidence of truth, right?
Yes.
And so once you say this is what I want,
Yep.
subconsciously it will start looking for it. So I
Yes.
want to challenge you with being able to say, traveling the world would be great if I could go A, B, and C. And then I
Yes.
want you to understand what's your why behind it. It's
Mm.
it's I want to go. I want to go see the pyramids, right? I want to be connected to my culture, my history. If you're on Ancestry and says this is where your family is from, being
Mhm.
with your roots, whatever your thing is,
Mhm. Mhm.
I would challenge you to make sure that you don't have to wait till you're 65, 85 when you retire to
Yeah.
experience a life that's been waiting for you in your 20s, your
Yeah.
30s, your 40s, your 50s. I just want to challenge you to be able to think differently and
Yeah.
give yourself the permission because most people are looking for conscious or subconscious permission to say you can do it. And so
Mm.
I'm willing to give you your first bit of confirmation that it's for you because you wouldn't be on this call, you wouldn't be listening to this particular podcast if there wasn't something in your mind or in your heart that says there is more to me than what I've been experiencing.
Yes.
I challenge you, and I give you full permission to be able to explore that on your terms.
All right. Well, that was a nugget. Thank you so, so much. This was so we could go on and on. I have so many more questions, but I think I just want to thank you. I think this is going to just bless so many people. Hope you guys that are listening, if you want to connect with Jamal, again, all of his information will be in the comments. Feel free to connect with him. And thank you for watching. And we will see you next time on Authenticate.
Thank you.